There are two types of Sheng Pu-erh. I love dry store pu'er, dislike wet store, and this one is neither dry nor wet, and I love it. This is Nannuoshan, I'm Gabriele, and today is Puerh day. Dry stored, wet stored, there are two words of pu'er. I know that many of you like the dry store one, some of you like the wet store one. Now, the fact is that it's not the end of the story. I recently was in China, actually just for a day or two, but I was in the very south, and Guangzhou is not very far from Hong Kong, so it was a great opportunity to organize some tea. The Mansa 2002 is one of them. I got it delivered before I went to Guangzhou, in Guangzhou, so that I could pick it up behind the scene of the video I made there and bring it over to Europe. I will not use this cake here, it's just here, but I bought just a few one because it's really, really expensive. 2002 Mansa, traditional Hong Kong storage. So I will keep it for you actually, and I got another sample that I have actually used here for the brewing. I put in the teapot about 6.5 grams. This is my favorite Sheng Pu-erh teapot. When I really crave for some tea, some Sheng Pu-erh, I always reach out to this teapot, 150 milliliters. And I would say, let's start brewing it and discuss what's so special about this tea. All right. We use these as just a first rinse, so we want drink these dry and wet stored. So I have been drinking dry stored pu'er since the time I've been drinking pu'er actually. Since the time I went for the first time to Yunnan in 2010, and ever since I really like that dry store sensation where the original taste of the cake remain the same. You still get a little bit of astringency, a little bit of bitterness, even if the tea actually is evolving over the years. Well, then you have on the opposite side the wet store. The wet store pu'er are cakes that are intentionally put in a wet environment, so with a lot of moisture. Wet, I don't mean they put it in a basin of water, I'm just meaning it is an intentionally wet environment with very high humidity and also very warm. And that accelerates the fermentation and oxidation, I would say the aging process, right? Whatever that is, it accelerated it. And the peculiarity of that is that you get that kind of, to be nice, forest undergrowth smell and taste. Is actually, many of us actually dislike it because it's very, very pungent. It's almost like, being in a wet basement. And personally, I was never really able to enjoy that tea. For me, it was like simply bad stored and just not good to drink. Now, this one here is a traditional Hong Kong storage. What does it mean? It means that it's neither dry nor wet, so let's not be confused, and is actually a type of pu'er that I really enjoy a lot, and I have learned enjoying more and more over the years. Now, what does it mean, traditional storage? It means that yes, it is a humid and warm environment. We are in Hong Kong, 30 degrees and more centigrade in the summer, pretty warm also in the winter. Humidity that it makes you wet as soon as you go out on the street. There is no way around that. But nonetheless, there was some intention behind it. So for example, the tea cakes are placed in large storage rooms, but nonetheless, the room is actually ventilated. They are kept away from the walls, where you usually have most moisture collecting on the walls. And also the cakes, the position of the cakes is rotated. So a cake that is maybe in the dark, wet corner takes a few months later another position in the room, so that all these tons of cakes that are in the room get more or less the same exposure. And usually this type of exposure is done just for a few years and in basements in Hong Kong, and then the tea is taken out upstairs in some other storage rooms that is more ventilated, even more than the ventilation that they had in the basement, to let it, how can I say, not really dry, but it's kind of almost removing also a little bit of that change that happened in the basement. So there is a lot of intention in that, and what you get out of it is a tea that is fairly dark in the brew. This dark orange here, 2002, so it's more than 20 years old, but there is no off taste, at least for me. It is, let's drink it. It's a tea that is very smooth, very soothing in your mouth. There is no astringency, no bitterness, they are all gone, and it's also somehow not bitter, somehow sweet. Yeah, there is some really lingering sweetness that remains in your mouth, and if I have to describe with one word, it's just simply pleasant. Now, saying traditional Hong Kong storage doesn't mean that is a very specific taste profile, and it's enough to know it was traditionally stored in Hong Kong to know what the tea tastes like. Because of course there are different collectors, different vendors that store the tea in Hong Kong in different ways, right? And also the original material is at the end different. And here is not like ripe pu'er, where you really ferment a lot the leaves and there is little remaining from the original taste. Certainly some, but little. Here there is still a lot of that original tasting material, or the taste of the original material if you want. And I have coming across quite a few Hong Kong traditional stored tea. I've been traveling in Hong Kong a few times also and tasted different teas there. There are teas that for me are a little bit too heavy. Yeah, traditional storage is also a range, right? So it can be lighter or stronger, can be more towards the wet side, more towards the dry side. But generally speaking, I had identified a few cakes that I really liked. One is the Honey 2007 that we had on the store, and I know many of you also appreciate. And just recently, actually, I came across the Mansa 2002. And the Mansa 2002, this cake here, is actually, I can think as much as I want, but is actually the best traditional Hong Kong storage tea I've ever drunk. And this is a category that is not very well represented in the Western world. Like if you go to Guangzhou, you go to Hong Kong, you find tons of traditionally stored tea, Puerh, right? It's the place where it's actually coming from. And in Hong Kong originally, and then in Guangzhou you have a lot of storage anyway. And in the West, it's a little bit more difficult to find it, I would say. And so every time I find something that is really good, I try to bring it to the shop. Now, with this tea, it wasn't an easy decision. I also tasted it with Sigi. You probably have seen that video. Sigi was also very positively impressed by the tea, I would say. And we had also tasted it a little bit off the camera with a friend of us that doesn't have a lot of Puerh experience. And also there, while the first tea that we had that day were perceived by the, let's say, tea beginner as just, I would never go and drink this tea actually. It really, you know, tastes like it would have been left there forever, and it even actually tastes like something is wrong in there, right? And maybe is that just a tea that has to be thrown away because it became almost moldy, if you want. When we reached the Mansa 2002, we had something like 9-10 steeps, and that beginner taster stayed with us for the whole taste, and at the end said, "This is a good tea, I like it." And all of those were actually traditionally stored Hong Kong tea. So it is a tea that, although makes really experienced person happy, like Sigi, maybe myself, also find enjoyment in the beginners. And I think it's not a common case for very complex tea like this one to really meet both palate, if you want. Unfortunately, as I said, is a tea that is expensive. At the time of recording right now, I haven't yet calculated exactly the price of this tea because I just brought it back. But you can expect something in the order of magnitude of €2, let's say $2 per gram. This means that although I will keep this cake here for you, I don't know how many of you really want to spend the money for a whole cake. Of course, we will sell also small pouches, either the 20 gram or the 50 gram. Just check on the website. But there is also the opportunity, just a suggestion from me, if you are on the Discord, for example, and you want to try the tea, maybe it's worth getting organized with another fellow tea lovers, buying a cake all together, and then one that maybe is in German, collect it, and then split it in 4 and send it over to the other guys. This way you would save money because a cake by the gram costs less than when it is split by us and packed in 20 or 50 gram pouches. It's so smooth and so pleasant that it's very difficult to find analogies. It definitely taste is not dry, right? Because I mean, 20 years maybe also a dry storage would have lost quite a bit of the original bitterness and astringency. But it would not be so rich and full and so smooth. And also you get a lot of taste. It's like, especially in the aftertaste, the mouth is really full, and it gives you this kind of satisfaction feeling, I would say. Yeah, that's the way I would call it. Is really a satisfaction, and is a tea that even if you brew it for long, now I left it there for quite a bit, 6.5 grams. The pot, 150 milliliter, but wasn't completely full. You see by the color that we are getting more into that red domain that is not so easy to find in Sheng Pu-erh. I mean, it's pretty dark. And I know, because I've tasted this tea before, that it won't be any bitter at all. It's just, it has more strength, it is there, maybe a tiny bit astringent maybe, but it has still that power that you cannot describe, you just to drink it. So I cannot tell you exactly why I actually like dry, really like traditional and don't like the wet. But maybe the way I can put it, I don't want to offend also anyone that really enjoy wet tea. If you like it, you like it, yeah. But for me, the analogy is the following. Let's take cheese, right? You can have a very fresh cheese, just 2-3 months old, and you have it is very soft. You still taste a lot of milk in it. Very pleasant tea. Dry storage, that's fine. Now you have cheeses that requires, I don't know, a little bit of attitude toward the toward the cheese. It's like, those that are either like blue cheese or a little bit moldy, or those that are stinky, really very strong and pungent at the nose. I know some Swiss cheese that are like these. I know some French cheese for sure that are like these. And it's not everyone cheese, but it is a cheese that was matured with intention. It was intentionally stored to reach that point. And there are people craving for it and loving it. And when you put it in your mouth, and though maybe, let's say, the smell of the cheese, it's pretty strong. And yes, even to those that love it, they would admit, I don't want to have a form of this cheese in my car. When you drink it, it's a different story. You have a taste that somewhat recalls the aroma, but is also an entity on its own. And then you have cheese that is just bad. It just became moldy, that was just left there, maybe even in your fridge for too long if you want. And this is, for me personally, what I associate a very strong wet storage, where it is just put in a moisture environment without caring about changing the air, changing the position, making sure it doesn't get too strong. That the type of cheese I associate wet store Puerh with. All right, say that I hope some of you will do the effort to try the tea. Both those that love already know traditional Hong Kong storage, but also those of you that are actually approaching Puerh for the first time. Don't wait 10 years to get into traditional storage. Try already now, because I'm pretty sure that many of you, even if you are at the first steps, either with Puerh or with aged, not dry Puerh, will enjoy this tea and will discover a new world. And every time I will be able to find something really worth bringing into the shop, I will do the effort to source it for you guys. I hope you have enjoyed these insights into the Mansa 2002, and I will see you at the next video. Thanks a lot for watching.